This week, we're actually talking about crypto with thing number 5. You've got everybody hodl on or hodl on or however we're pronouncing it, as you mentioned, Gary. But thing number 5, we're talking crypto volatility. Presidential silence causes price fluctuations.
All right, Rob, let's break this into two segments. Let's first talk about the volatility, and then we can talk about crypto versus Bitcoin. How's that sound?
Perfect.
All right. So, President Trump, as a candidate, was heavily supported by people in the crypto and Bitcoin industry. And he was very smart. He went out and solicited their votes, and he told them, donate to my campaign, vote for me, put me in office, and I will put a more crypto friendly administration in at the SEC and the regulatory agencies. And guess what? He actually is following through on that. However, a week ago during his inauguration, we had enormous amounts of volatility. So just ahead of his inaugural speech, Bitcoin went, straight up to 109,000, the all-time record. That's in dollars, of course. And then, just before the speech, as drafts of the speech started to come out, Bitcoin started to slip, crypto started to slip. People saw that that President Trump had released, a couple of meme coins that caused Bitcoin to slip. And then during the speech, Bitcoin actually dipped down to the 100,000 level from this all-time high of 109,000, simply because he didn't talk about it during the speech.
And Gary, in terms of talking about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, how anxious should investors be, right, with President Trump? How much movement do you think that'll give them one way or the other? What's your take? How should people be thinking about this president and what it means for Bitcoin investors?
Well, first of all, and it's a very short history here, but there's no question President Trump is and will be the most Bitcoin and crypto friendly president we've ever had. Now, if somebody wants to point out we've only had a few presidential administrations. Yeah, it's true, but I think he's very pro Bitcoin. My thesis on Bitcoin is really simple. Governments all over the world, led by the United States Congress, are overspending. They are debasing their fiat currencies. That's just a fancy way of saying they are printing so much money that the value of that money goes down. We experience that as inflation. And so the world needs sound money. It's good for everything to have money where the supply doesn't expand at an exponentially increasing rate. Bitcoin is actually deflationary. Bitcoin's issuance schedule decreases over time. And as of its last halving almost a year ago, Bitcoin is harder than gold, which means it's being issued at a rate slower than new gold is being mined. So that is a long-term thesis. That's the kind of thing that plays out over decades or even centuries. The idea that people would be selling Bitcoin because President Trump didn't mention it during a 20 or 30-minute speech on a particular Monday, I think is ridiculous. Now, I do believe that the Trump administration will follow through on their promises and will be crypto friendly and Bitcoin friendly. But even if they're not, Congress is going to overspend. And whether President Trump follows through or not, whether this is a crypto friendly administration or not, hold your Bitcoin. The problems that have caused Bitcoin to rise from almost nothing to, as we talk about this right now, about 102,000, which is where it is as we film this, those problems still exist. The world still needs sound money. Whether any particular politician or government supports it, that's the direction we want to be invested in. So I wasn't really worried about the speech. I think the market overreacted to a non-mention in a 20, 30-minute speech.
Great stuff there, Gary, as well as I think next week we'll be talking a little bit about new cryptocurrency banking legislation. So stay tuned for next week's version of the 5 things. And that concludes this week's version. The dollar, gold, and crypto issue. The 5 things to know in investing this week. Again, be sure to head to deepknowledgeinvesting.com, sign up for a free subscription to be notified of all new content being posted to the website.